Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to a roundup of some of the news that has been floating around over the last few days, powered by Motorsport Network as always, as well as a look at the results from the opening 2 practice sessions of the Australian Grand Prix weekend. Let's jump straight into it then, and first up today, Audi and Porsche have put their plans to enter F1 on hold, for now at least, but it still looks as though we could see at least one of those famous names in the sport in the near future. Speculation has been rife over recent months that both are set to join the sport, and there was even some talk back in early February, if you remember, that Red Bull could even announce a deal with Porsche as early as March. However, as you may have noticed, that didn't happen. A statement released following a board meeting on Thursday did not go as far as to confirm an entry, instead making it clear that it would likely get the green light once the new regs have been finalised by the FIA. Both companies, by the way, want to see more cost-effective units from 2026 and the sport ditch things like the MGU-H. The statement did, though, confirm that discussions have taken place regarding a potential F1 entry and went on to say, "We have not yet made a decision as we are currently in the final evaluation phase. At this point, the new regulations for 2026 and the subsequent years are not yet available. These will set out far-reaching changes to make the sport more sustainable, which is a prerequisite for Audi's possible entry. Audi Sport is discussing these matters directly with the FIA. Our decision will be announced as soon as it has been made." So no official go-ahead just yet from the VW Group, although it is understood that plans for Porsche and Audi to enter F1 are at an advanced stage. And on the Porsche side, it's looking almost nailed on, I suppose you could say, that they will partner with Red Bull from 2026. More on that in just a moment. As for Audi though, well, the rumoured deal with McLaren is starting to look unlikely, and instead there is now talk that Aston Martin could be an option for the manufacturer. Motorsport.com sources have suggested that initial talks have already taken place between the two. Meanwhile, Christian Horner has said that it would be very easy for the new Red Bull Powertrains division to adjust to working with a new power unit supplier in the future. With Honda withdrawing more or less completely from F1 at the end of 2021, Red Bull decided to establish its own division to help it run rebadged Honda engines over the next few seasons, whilst the sport prepares to introduce new power unit regulations in 26. But it is now widely expected that the team will partner with Porsche once those new rules come into force. When asked by Motorsport.com about Thursday's VW announcement, Horner said it was great news for the sport, which quite frankly it is, saying it would be only natural for the team to hold discussions with them and it would be pretty straightforward for them to start working with a potential new partner. The Red Bull boss went on to add that the Powertrains division is in good shape, the group is pleased with its progress and the talent it has managed to attract. When asked about all this, Max Verstappen said the prospect of Audi and or Porsche joining F1 was exciting and important for the sport, adding, "We have 10 great teams, but also to have really big brands to see that commitment. I'm looking forward to what the future will bring to the teams." So it is all looking positive then, and actually it's starting to look likely that we will see at least one of them join F1 from 2026, which is, as Verstappen said, very exciting. I will clarify something though. As it stands, Porsche is looking to enter into a partnership with a team, most likely Red Bull, as I say, but there is talk that Audi wants to buy out a team like, for example, Aston Martin, as I said, or they've already explored the option of buying McLaren, but maybe that's not going to happen. But whatever does happen, my point is that neither of them are looking to enter their own teams, just get together with others. So unless Andretti, for example, enters, we're still looking at a 10-team grid. Either way, though, it is still great news for F1, and it's going to be fascinating to see what happens over the coming months, and hopefully we'll hear something very, very soon. Elsewhere this week, Mercedes arrived in Melbourne with no updates on the W13, despite the team's difficult start to 2022, which has seen both Lewis Hamilton and George Russell suffer with porpoising as well as weight and drag issues. There is confidence, though, that the pace is in the car, but Russell urged patience and explained that the team is not going to throw parts at the car in a trial and error fashion, and instead the team plans to wait for updates everyone has, quote, "total faith in and confidence they will do as we expect." Despite no updates appearing on the car this weekend, Russell is confident the team will be closer to the sharp end in Australia than they were in Jeddah, adding the car was around a second off the pace last time out. Although, as you'll see in the practice results later, they're still quite a way off the pace. Of course, yes, it is only Friday and you can't read too much into it, I know, but it's not a great start to the weekend for them. The goal, though, for the time being at least, is to gather as many points as possible and maximise results. Obvious statement, I know. Russell also dismissed talk of any internal frustrations at Mercedes, as they believe there is a solution to the problems, and once the car is optimised, there is a lot of lap time on the table. Hamilton, by the way, said after practice that nothing the team is trying or changing on the car is making a difference and said, quote, "It is just a tricky car," adding there is not a lot we can do. And Russell said post-practice that the porpoising was bad again, describing it as the most severe he's experienced. Fernando Alonso's Alpine contract runs out at the end of this season, and even though we've only had 2 races so far, some are asking whether the Spaniard will call it a day at the end of 2022. However, right now, Alonso has no plans to go anywhere, instead saying he plans to stick around for 2 or 3 more years. Alonso was asked by Motorsport.com if he felt any pressure to step aside to allow Alpine young driver Oscar Piastri a chance, to which he said no, and added to that by saying that people always try to find a way for the young talents, but he doesn't believe it should be about a driver's age, it should be about a driver's performance, insisting that he still feels fast and competitive. When will he look to negotiate a new deal then? Well, Alonso reckons talks will start proper in the summer. Of course, with Ocon already tied down, that would appear to close the door on Piastri for at least another season, although Alonso did appear to hint that the reigning F2 champion could find a seat elsewhere for the time being. So, and yes, I'm going to say it, watch this space. Kevin Magnussen believes some of the changes made to the Albert Park circuit ahead of F1's return are a bit over the top, and the Haas driver is not convinced all the alterations were necessarily needed. Speaking ahead of the weekend, and obviously therefore before he'd hit the track, the Dane said that he felt removing the old chicane previously known as turns 9 and 10 was not necessary, as it's unlikely we'll see any overtaking in the fast chicane at the end of that long run from turn 6, and so a longer acceleration zone wasn't really needed. I kind of agree with him there, although that old chicane was a little bit clumsy. He did say, though, that it's good the circuit bosses are trying to improve the racing, and ended that part by saying, quite simply, let's see how it goes in the race. And that's the reason I wanted to include this story in today's roundup, because it's going to be interesting to see if his view changes following the action on Sunday. It's just something to keep an eye on. And very quickly, K-Mag did also state with the DRS Open, Turn 9 is going to be pretty full on, and the cars are likely to be loose through there. And on the subject of DRS, Magnussen hopes that the 4 zones this weekend, 4 zones, Christ, he hopes they don't make overtaking too easy on Sunday. And finally, let's have a look at the results from the first 2 practice sessions of the weekend, starting rather predictably with FP1. Carlos Sainz, who was actually running sensors on his front wing this morning to check for flexing, topped the first session with a 1:19.806, followed by teammate Charles Leclerc. Sergio Perez was third for Red Bull. He lost a bit of debris from his car and that brought out the red flag. Max Verstappen was fourth, 8/10 off there, as you can see, from Carlos Sainz. Lando Norris in fifth place. Much better Friday for McLaren. Fingers crossed things are looking up for them this weekend. Esteban Ocon in sixth place for Alpine. And then we've got Lewis Hamilton seventh. As I said earlier, not looking great. 1.2 seconds off the pace so far, Mercedes. Long way to go this weekend, of course. Daniel Ricciardo 8th in the second McLaren. Fernando Alonso was 9th. He had a spin at turn 11, but managed to get his car facing the right way and carried on in the session. Valtteri Bottas rounds out the top 10 with a 1:21.247, 1.4 seconds off Carlos Sainz's time. He was just ahead of Yuki Tsunoda. Nothing in that one, was it? George Russell in 12th in the second Mercedes. And then we've got Sebastian Vettel 13th, his first outing in an Aston Martin since testing. And it wasn't a good one because he stopped on track with an engine issue, smoke coming from the back of his car. And that brought out the second red flag of the session. The team later confirmed they had to change his power unit. He won't take a penalty though, as he's still within his allocation for the season, and as you'll see, that also ended his hopes of running in the afternoon. Pierre Gasly 14th for AlphaTauri, with Zhou Guanyu in 15th and Lance Stroll in 16th. Alex Albon was 17th in the Williams. Kevin Magnussen 18th for Haas. He's actually not been very well, or wasn't this morning. Suffered from a bit of nausea, and that wasn't really helped by the fact he then locked up and went straight on at turn 3, well into the gravel, but did manage to keep going in the end. And that just leaves us with Nicholas Latifi in 19th on a 1:23.9 and Mick Schumacher 20th for Haas, 4.5 seconds off the pace. And I should say as well that all drivers set their fastest times in that first practice session with a set of the soft tyres on. As for FP2, there was a lingering threat of rain in the air, but it never fell, although there were apparently a few spots, but there wasn't enough to really affect the running. And it was a fairly quieter session in terms of incidents at least, but there has been a fair bit of impeding going on out there, which could of course lead to penalties if that carries on into qualifying. Keep an eye on that one. But it was Charles Leclerc who topped the second session of the day with a 1:18.978, 2/10 clear of Max Verstappen. Got to say as well, the porpoising was quite bad on the Ferrari, particularly down that long run to the turn 9-10 chicane. So Mercedes not the only one suffering with that badly this weekend, although I think it's fair to say it didn't really seem to slow Ferrari down too much. Carlos Sainz was third in the second Ferrari, with Fernando Alonso just behind him in fourth place. Alpine looking good as well so far this weekend. Sergio Perez in the second, Red Bull 5th with Esteban Ocon in 6th and Valtteri Bottas in 7th. Lando Norris was 8th for McLaren with Pierre Gasly in 9th and Daniel Ricciardo 10th, 1.2 seconds covering the top 10. George Russell, 11th, was the fastest of the Mercedes drivers. Yuki Tsunoda in 12th. He got a reprimand in the end for impeding Carlos Sainz. Lewis Hamilton down there in 13th place on a 120.521. Lance Stroll, 14th. He actually lost part of his wheel arch brow or cover or whatever you want to call it. And that was on the exit of turn 11. That actually ended up in a red flag while that debris was recovered. Zhou Guanyu was in 15th place with Kevin Magnussen 16th and Alex Albon again leading the Williams pair in 17th. Mick Schumacher 18th on a 121.974. Nicholas Latifi in 19th again. And there's Sebastian Vettel, bottom of the table. No laps on the board at all due to that issue in the morning and Aston Martin not being able to get the car out in time. But Seb was also handed a €5,000 fine following the session for, and I never thought I'd say this, unauthorised use of a scooter on the track. Yep, you heard me right. And once again, by the way, all the drivers set their fastest times in the afternoon on a set of these soft tyres. That is it for this week's roundup then, but you can, as always, let me know your thoughts on any of the stories featured today in the comment section down below. Now, I will be back on Sunday with the usual race reaction live stream, but in the meantime, if you did enjoy this one, then please do leave a like as it really does help the channel out, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos or streams. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.